ago today, right after I was done at Toastmasters, I went home, and my 14-year-old son said, "Mom, will you make me a smoothie?" And I said, "Well, sure, I do it almost every day." So I went over to the cupboard and I opened it up to get the food processor down, and as I started to bring it down, the blade from the food processor fell out and landed right here on my hand, cutting this artery open.
Oh my God.
And blood fountained up like a chocolate fountain at a Hollywood bar mitzvah. It was just, and it was one of those surreal things where I'm looking at it and I can't believe it's my hand. It doesn't even hurt yet. It happened so fast. But blood does not really bother me. I love horror movies. I did put my hand over it. I tried to stop it, but it is just running down. It's all over the kitchen. I try to put water on it, and that just makes it bleed worse. So I say, "Quinn, we got to go to the emergency room." Quinn's 14. He can't drive. Derek's not home. So we get in the car, and Derek has my car, which is a stick, thank goodness, but I use his car, which is a 1978 Wagoneer. It's a boat, so I'm going like this, trying to keep it above my head, steering with my elbow, and halfway there, I can't even make it to the hospital. I'm going to the clinic next to Dan's, Park City Market, and I say, and it's true, I go, "Quinn, I'm starting to see stars. If I pull over, you're going to have to drive the rest of the way." And he goes, "Okay." He kind of can drive by watching me. I haven't had a formal lesson yet. He says, "Which one is the brake again?"
Oh my gosh.
And I say, "The middle pedal." And he goes, "There's only 2 pedals." Well, we do make it to the hospital because it's just actually less than a mile away. But they see me kind of pale. They put me in a wheelchair. They drag me in there. They put some blood coagulating things on me to slow the bleeding. And within 10 minutes of laying down and having my feet up and the pressure on, I actually feel fine again. I have about, I don't know, I lost count about 12 or 13. I've got probably 17 stitches in there. Still, they're going to probably come out on Friday, and then I might have to get some more. So, the moral of the story of this is, the lesson that we learn, never make your children smoothies. This story that I just told you could have easily been a story that talks about kitchen safety. It could have been the opening of a story about how to teach your child how to drive. But the point is, I told you a story. And I immediately engaged you. I looked around, people were grimacing, you laughed, you were emotionally connected to what I had to say. You had no idea where the speech was going, but you didn't care, because I was telling you a story. And that's the one thing I noticed when I went back and I watched these speeches, is that every one of them told a story. From as far back as you can remember, what's the one thing that you wanted your parents to do when you were little? Tell you a story. And we as adults we aren't any different today. We still love it when we're told a story. Psychologists say that our emotions are the tags for our memories. So if you want your speech to be memorable, you're going to put some emotion in it. And I noticed every speech there had 2 things, humor and pain. And when I say pain, I don't mean that death and dying kind of pain. I mean the kind of pain where you tell a heavy woman, or ask her, "When's your baby due?" And she's not pregnant. Or you go to take your driver's test for the 3rd time and you fail again, not because you don't know how to drive, but because you just freak out at tests. It's that kind of pain. So every speech had humor and pain. These things are all the minutia of life. The things that people talked about in their speeches, they weren't the big things. They weren't things like how I witnessed a miracle, or how life was changed when my grandmother died. They were things like, which I spoke about a little bit last week, the winner of my group talked about as a man being short. And it was poignant, it was hysterically funny, and at the end there was truly, truly a message there. Now when I was there, there was a guy who gave a talk, his name, and I wrote it down, Lars Sudsman, and he gave a talk about humor. And there was nothing about him that was funny at all, but he came up, he actually did speak well about humor. He came up with the code of humor. And he said the code of humor, C-O-D-E, was C for content, O for organization, D for delivery, and E for effect. And I totally, and he said the emphasis was on the content. If you just remember those 4 things when you give your speech, and the humor and pain, he called it pain and trust. But I noticed everybody, every speech, all of them, I only saw maybe 18 of them out of, there were 80 some odd speeches. Every one of them had humor in them. And like I said, it was maybe 2 laughs a minute. So we're not talking where you're holding your side the whole time. But they were poignant. To give you an example of this, Jock Elliott, who won last year, he is the guy who came back 6 times before he's been trying since 1975 to win this, and he finally won it. And his example, he gave us a talk this year about humor and pain. And he gave an example of a speech that he had done that got him to that point, but he didn't win the big prize. It was called Que Sera Sera. And it was a speech around the Doris Day song, Que Sera Sera. So he starts his speech. I asked my mother, Mom, what will I be? Will I be rich? Will I be handsome? Here's what she said to me. Nah. You're going nowhere. And so instead of him coming out and giving some sappy story about how he had to grow up in a home that wasn't supportive, he made it funny. But we still got the same effect, and it touched us more. So, how do you write an award-winning speech? I have no idea, or else I would have won. But I do know this. If you want to give a speech that people will remember, you have to tell a story. You have to touch their hearts. You have to make a connection. The best thing they can say is, I related to your story. And I had to write this down. The more ordinary and authentic your story is, the more extraordinary of a connection you'll make with your audience. I promise.